Hey everyone, it's UB. I haven't made a video in a while, but I believe today's Bitcoin price action definitely warrants a video because this is a idea that you can apply to really any chart. It doesn't have to be Bitcoin or a high cap. But the price action was really interesting, and I wanted to verbally explain my thought process here and why I, had the chart update that I had. I'll read it aloud for those of you who aren't in the Haven, or for those of you that just don't feel like going back to the Discord and scrolling through my section. The chart update says Bitcoin continues to chop at the range low, which I suppose is a decent sign for a bounce. Sellers have been unable to close below the range low, so that means we need some liquidity. Watch for a bounce from here to 57K, and validation would be an hourly close below 55.3K. We are risking about 600 points for a 1.2K point gain. Not a bad play at all for those who are interested in a bounce play. What's really important is what happens at the equilibrium. Okay, so if you guys don't already know, I trade obviously price action, range trading, but all of that is based on liquidity. And trading based on liquidity, where can price go to get the most amount of liquidity, but also that it's easiest for it to get to. Okay, so for this range specifically, I highlighted these highs here, okay, and these lows. Okay, so really what I did here is I wanted to note down these highs because we have a significant move after setting these highs, right? So a significant move there. Then I highlighted these lows because we have a base forming right here, okay, or nope, right there. So if we see the lows here, they were equal lows, so that is prime for price to sweep that area. You may be asking yourself, well, what about following that same idea? Why wouldn't you put your range low down here? And that is a great question, but there's really no places of liquidity that haven't already been exhausted in this area. You see what I'm saying? Because you have this low right here, and this was swept, right? Okay, so now we move down to the next low. This low, this low right here. Oh my gosh, you guys get the point. This low right here, that was swept as well. And like I said, everything was really exhausted. We finally swept another low, and we got a massive bounce, right? But there's really no equal lows. If we look left on our chart right here, there's really no equal lows that could have been taken. So there's really nothing, significant that we're looking for. But after we form our little base right here and push up towards the equilibrium, we have equal lows. Okay, so now our equal lows or equal highs is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so let's go back in time here. So we have our range high, range low. Neither have been swept yet. So now how I approach this trade is this is essentially a no trade zone until we get above the equilibrium, or we test the equilibrium, do some sort of under over pattern or something like that, right? Because what I'll be doing from the equilibrium is entering into or just reacting based on the price action, right? Because I don't really care what the number says next to the price at the end of the day. I'm just trying to capture a move, okay? So, yeah, that's how I would have approached that. I guess that's not really related to what I was talking about, but I got on a little bit of a tangent there. So let's rewind a bit and think back to that update I verbally explained to you. Rewind the video if you already forgot about that chart update. But essentially what made me interested in a bounce is the chopping at this level. Okay, and the same logic can apply to the chopping at this range high, but I'll talk about that after I explain this range low area first. Okay. So to further confirm that these lows are important is how much we chopped around these range lows, right? So if you see, we put in this long lower wick here and barely close the hourly below those lows. But again, you could see that as price is chopping for the next few hours, we put in a long lower wick here, close below. You could see that the hourly attempted to close above there, got rejected. Next hourly opened. You could see clearly these lows are very, very important, and will now be putting in a support and resistance flip. So now we're looking for a support and resistance flip, because our idea of, hey, these lows may be interesting, they actually are interesting. Okay, same exact logic applies to these highs up here, because really you just had some, you could say, naked highs, right? And you're not really sure if they're going to be significant at all. But because of this price action in here, and clearly there are no hourlies closing above this level, you can further confirm that, hey, this range actually is correct, and make trades based on that idea, right? Cool. So with all of that in mind, we're chopping above the range low, and sellers are pretty exhausted at this point. You can see we made some, or not we, sellers made some really strong attempts to send this down lower. You can see this really disgusting hourly candle here, this hourly candle after a 760 point bounce, this disgusting hourly candle as well. Okay, and you can see based on these long lower wicks that sellers continue to try and push this down and really get something going, but they literally got nothing out of it, right? The hourly continued to close above the range low, and really this candle was my signal to enter into a long, and that's exactly why I sent out that chart update with what I said about it. Okay, so what did I want to say next? Why this candle was my long signal was because of, I guess, what I just said, right? We put in a disgusting hourly candle here. Sellers got nowhere. We have some long lower wicks. We did not close the hourly below the range low. So really this is an idea of, okay, this is a tug of war match between bulls and bears, right? And bears are clearly losing. They're getting exhausted, and bulls are starting to pull the rope and begin to win the tug of war match. So now the idea is, okay, who's going to be more trapped in this area if we move away from this base that we set? And the answer would be sellers, because of how much effort they put into looking for another sell-off, right? And every sell-off was just greeted with an immediate bounce back up, okay? So the same idea and all of that can be used in this area as well. So the range high and these highs were very clearly a significant area. We were chopping around this area, and obviously hindsight is 2020, right? But I would say this candle should have been your trigger to look for a short position, because of what happened a few candles before. All right, so a few candles before, we see a disgusting sell-off candle that engulfed the last few hours of price action, right? But then a strong bounce immediately after. So based on all of the liquidity that price got from in here, we really should have been able to break this resistance. So the fact that we couldn't, and we continued to close hourlies below this range high, was really concerning, right? So then you enter into a short and go to the equilibrium. Okay, so whenever I'm trading based on a trading range, which is like 95% of my trades, my first two targets will be within the trading range, depending on where I'm long from or short from, I guess. So let's say if I'm long from the range low, my first target will be the equilibrium every time. Maybe front running the equilibrium a little bit, maybe a little bit past it, but the general location of my first take profit will be in the equilibrium. Same for a short. Okay, so and then my second take profit will be the range high, most likely front running it almost every time. And then my third take profit will be some sort of resistance over here or to the left of the chart. And yeah, so that's how I will go. That's how I typically go for setting my take profits. And that's really it. I think I explained this decently well. If you have any further questions, or if you want me to make more videos about this topic, definitely feel free to leave that feedback. And that's it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.